Hello. So, want to kind of do a video about Sebastian and kind of, well, I guess a video about Sebastian and Aurora and kind of talk about, right, how Sebastian is kind of like Aurora's biggest enabler. Right, I mean, I've mentioned this many times. Sebastian is the best hero in the game. Like, it's really not even debatable or even particularly close. I mean, Sebastian, like, his ability to block status effects is very powerful. And, like, I've mentioned this many times, Aurora's the best tank. And part of the reason that makes her best tank is that she is a dodge tank, right? And she doesn't have, like, a real counter. That's like I said, technically she does, right? Because there's one weakness here that she has low armor. However, it's hard to hit her with physical attacks because of dodge. However, if she is inflicted with a status effect that keeps her from dodging, such as stun, she ends up becoming really easy to beat with physical attacks. So this is why Sebastian ends up being kind of like her main enabler. Sebastian's Ode Serenity ability protects status effects, which means it protects Aurora from being stunned. If Aurora can't get stunned, it's really hard to beat her and it's really hard to counter her. Right, because as long as she's protected from status effects, there's nothing stopping her from spamming her ult a million times with Cane Energy, or stunning her, or whatever. Right, like I said, as long as she's allowed to do all that, she is very hard to beat, and she ends up being, like I said, that's why she's the best tank in the game, because of all the stuff she does, and Sebastian is what allows her to do that. Right, so if you don't have Sebastian, like, on your team, like, let's say you're fighting a Kark team, but you don't want to use Sebastian, right, like I said, you're probably gonna run into some issues. Like even with like a Twins team, like Twins is a really good team against Kark, right? But let's say instead of Sebastian, we use a second. Let's bring in Martha instead, right? You might think this is a good lineup for a Twins lineup, like you'll have the right patrons and stuff. I'll show you all after battle, but the Twins team does not get a win here. Like normally Kark, like I said, I'll tell you this. As somebody who plays Twins against Kark, like Kark is like 100% win rate for me, right? And what allows it to be 100% win rate is generally Sebastian, right? But if you don't have a Sebastian, you just, like, the whole team just got stunned by a faceless power throw, and then they take a lot of damage from Kark. All, Lars does have Axel Patron, because you always want Axel Patron when attacking a Kark team with Lars, but like I said, Aurora's dead now because she's getting stunned and can't dodge, and now the whole team has, like, gonna lose what remaining dodge protection they have now. So now they have nothing, and now they just get destroyed by Kark. Right, and that's because Sebastian's not there to protect them from Kark and faceless stuns, and they're an easy pickings. And boom. So, yeah, that was a terrible defeat, right? Like I said, that'd be a disappointment, right? You have the patrons like you would expect, right? And it's like Kark's, like I said, pretty standard. You have Mara on Faceless, Fenders on Kark, Kane, Axel, Albus, right? Pretty typical thing, like I said, right? If Aurora's getting stunned, she's not able to dodge, but if you run a typical, like so, but if you run with a Sebastian, right, instead of Martha, right, this becomes an easy win. I didn't even have a pre demonstration because I don't need one because I know this is gonna get a win, because I beat this team all the time. Like this is the easiest team in the game for me to beat because it's 100. This is 100% win rate. If you set this up right, you want Axel on Lars, Axel your main pet, Kane on Aurora, and you need Sebastian in your team. I mean, Celeste is honestly, right, the main reason you have Celeste is just to kind of prevent, like, Oliver patron shenanigans. Maybe have a Oliver patron on Aurora or something, right, and that's the main reason you want Celeste, because you'll time out if you can't overcome that. But otherwise, like I said, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the possibility of, like, Oliver patron, you could probably even cut Celeste from this. But this is generally the main Twins line. Like I said, if you're running Twins, this is the line you're going to use pretty much always. Pretty much like 95% of the time, this is the line you want. These are 5 heroes you want if you want to play Twins. And you just, like I said, and this is 100% win rate against Kark. This team always beats Kark if you set it up just like I showed you. Right, and this, and what makes this team work is because Sebastian protects against the stuns. Faceless and Kark do, and if they can't stun you, it's really hard for Kark to get a win. Right, Spaces did his power throw, but the team's not stunned this time, and you see some dodging happening. Like, Lars actually did not missed his dodge roll, but he has Axel Patron. But like, look how easily this wins. Like, this is such a blowout. Right, and that's the difference between having Sebastian and not having Sebastian. Like, this is why Sebastian is the best hero in the game, and you can replace like Kark. Like, there's all kinds of heroes that will just like nasty state effects, whether it be Arachne or Leanne or Isaac or whatever, right? And Sebastian can greatly protect you against all those, right? And people like talk about like how was Isaac's an Aurora counter. Isaac's really not an Aurora counter. There's a guildmate who runs like that team kind of like this. That'll be like I said, he doesn't use Celeste, but he does use Aurora and Sebastian, and then he also uses Nebula, Martha. Well, sometimes he uses the instead, but Ishmael and Nebula. That's kind of like the line he uses a lot of times. And this line actually, like I said, turns out to be quite good against certain teams, but you can't bring down Isaac to counter this. Like, Isaac's not a counter to this line. Like, yes, Aurora does magic damage, but right, it's Celeste that Isaac counters in a lot of these Aurora teams, not Aurora herself. So she doesn't have, like I said, the main way to counter her is to try to, counter Sebastian. You want to like bring in like say Mara with like a Biscuit patron on her. Like, you'll put more, like I said, again, a team like Mara with Biscuit. That's the main way, the easiest way generally to counter Sebastian's Ode to Serenity is to try to overwhelm him, because it only protects 15 times. And, like I said, if those 15 times are gone, then you can start landing state effects again. Remember, that's not a hard counter, though, because he does, like I said, eventually ults again, and he'll have to be starting the process over. But that's generally the only thing you can really do to kind of counter Aurora. Like I said, that's why Aurora's best tank in the game. It's why Sebastian's the best hero in the game. It's why the two of them are pretty much the backbone of every team. And a lot of times you see Celeste is also joining that crew. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video fun and informative. Thank you for watching.